To see how many people.
Good morning. I'm Laura Dulce. I'm the Executive Director of the Kennebunk-Kennebunkport-Arundel Chamber, and I want to welcome you here this morning to Facebook Ads and Algorithms. Our guest speaker today is Rob LaBelle. Rob is the Marketing Director at the Nonantum Resort and a Chamber Board member, and I know he's going to be able to share a lot of great information with you. So take it away, Rob.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Laura, and thank you to the ladies at the Chamber for setting this up. And thank you to all of you who have joined today. My hope is that you'll come away with something that will help out your business and some insights. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I have that open so I can look and try and respond as fast as possible. So today's process is going to be 3 steps. The first step, we're going to go over and look at a PowerPoint, and that's just going to give us some basic vocabulary so we're all talking the same language here. Start off kind of beginner steps, and then we'll go into watching a little bit of a video, and then we'll move into making some ads. So I will actually start designing an ad and let you guys send in comments to the chat, and at the end we'll block off some time so you guys can ask any questions that you might have. So without further ado, I'll jump right into my PowerPoint. If you guys could, whoever would like to, please put in the chat your name and a company that you are representing. That would be great to know so I can make it more relatable for you. All right, let me share my screen here. Let's see, hopefully everybody can see this. All right, so what we're talking about today is social media ads and algorithms and how we drive traffic to your website. That's the name of the game here, is how are we getting people to our website? So starting off here with a little bit of vocab, if we don't understand these few terms here, it's going to be very difficult as we get into looking at the data of the ads. So an impression, the number of times an ad or a boosted post is displayed to a user. Each time a user sees your ad, that counts as an impression. Reach, a data metric that determines the maximum potential audience for any given message. So basically, if you send out an ad, each individual person that gets to see that ad is your reach, which is different than the impression because the same person may have multiple impressions, but that will only count as one reach. Click-through rate, a common metric for reporting on the number of people who have viewed a piece of content, then took an action such as clicking on the ad or the link. That's really important in optimizing your campaigns on any kind of digital marketing campaign. Your click-through rate, the stronger that is, the more it's going to get served and the less you'll pay for it. Cost per thousand, or CPM. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this term from all different industries, but in the digital world, it's pretty much the same. The total cost of your ads for every 1,000 impressions. So that's really my biggest metric for determining the effectiveness, because what we're doing here is just trying to get eyeballs on our content and to our website ultimately. So I want to know how much it's going to cost me for every 1,000 eyeballs. Frequency. This is a number of times on average that each person in your targeting parameters in your ad set will see your ad. So on average, if you blast out an ad and you only have 1,000 people and you've got a really big budget, they're probably going to see that ad multiple times, which in some cases is good, could be part of the strategy. But a pro tip here is pay attention to your frequency once we get into Facebook Ads Manager. And there's a really fine line that you got to dance to have the most optimized ad. Organic reach. Okay, so what we're talking about for today, the primary focus is going to be around business pages. So there's a big difference between a personal Facebook page and a business Facebook page. So basically, Facebook got in trouble around 2018, I believe, because they were starting to get a little bit too spammy, was the complaint. So Facebook changed up their algorithms and they wanted to get back to their original intent, which was connecting people and friends and family and seeing the things that they want to see. So understanding how that Facebook algorithm is designed to work now is really important. That's the way that they rank things, is first and foremost, what is your relationship to this brand or this person? If you interact a lot with that brand or this person, you're going to see more of their content. I always use an example of a couple of friends that I have as a married couple, and I'll hear the wife say, "Did you see so-and-so post about this? Or did you see this post?" And the husband will say, "No, I never saw that, and I'm friends with them too. I don't get it." It's simply because the husband friend of mine does not interact with that person as much, so Facebook's going to serve you up the content that you interact with the most. All right, so we'll jump into this YouTube video, and this gives basically a short, brief description of how the Facebook algorithm works. Can everybody see that? Laura, can you see that? All right, let me stop share and switch over. All right, Laura, is that good? Perfect.
Rob, you may need to click the box that shares the sound on the screen when you share screen.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Let's see.
That's always a tricky one.
Yeah, if I knew where that was, I would do it right now.
So if you stop sharing your screen for a second.
Got it. I think I got it. Tell me if you
Yeah.
hear that.
Ranks content. But overall, Facebook's goal has always been the same.
All right. Let me
Connect
start
people.
over. Sorry about that, guys.
Organic reach for Facebook business pages is plummeting. In fact, some people say by more than 50%. So how do you make sure that the content you share on Facebook is actually seen? There are thousands of factors that determine how the newsfeed ranks content. But overall, Facebook's goal has always been the same. Connect people to the stories they want to be connected to. That means prioritizing posts from family, friends, and news organizations over content from brands. To claim your spot on the newsfeed among the 60 million other businesses marketing on Facebook, you have to understand two things. One, how the newsfeed ranks content, and two, where Facebook is heading as a business, not simply a social network. When Facebook ranks content, really it's looking at four things: who posted it, how people engaged with it, what kind of post it is, and when it was posted. The more engagement a post gets, the more it and your future posts are seen in the newsfeed. Remember, less is more. For brands, reach actually drops with each additional post, especially if you post more than 3 times a day. Be selective about what you post and how often. You've also got to avoid clickbait. Facebook tracks the amount of time people spend reading an article and watching a video and decreases its visibility if people immediately bounce from it or scroll past. Facebook is looking more and more like a video platform every day, and the algorithm reflects that. The newsfeed prioritizes Facebook Lives in real time and now notes how long people watched pre-produced videos, giving long videos with high completion rates an extra boost. But more than anything else, you've got to know your audience. The newsfeed is smart enough to know the type of posts people want to see. To increase those engagement rates, try using preferred audience tracking to optimize who sees your content. Jump up the settings and make sure audience optimization for posts is turned on. The next time you post, just click the tiny target and choose interests relevant to your content. If your organic reach is dropping, don't be surprised. Instead, know your audience and post quality content they want to engage with. Definitely consider promoting posts with ad spend, but know there are ways to make the algorithm work for you and your business.
All right. So we'll stop sharing that. Bear with me 1 second. All right. Are we back, everybody? Laura, can you see my PowerPoint again? All right. Perfect. So organic reach on business pages is dropping, as she just said. Now that video is about 4 years old now. It's still very relevant to the topic that we're talking about. However, the only thing that I would add to it is that organic reach is dropping more than 50% at this point, much more, and it continues to do so. On the next slide here, you'll see, as of the end of 2020, organic reach is still on the decline. The average reach for an organic Facebook post is down to 5.2%. So what that's saying is, if you have 1,000 followers of your Facebook page and you post, only about 5% of your followers are going to see that post at first. Now, if that first 5% of people engage with and like and comment and share that post, it'll go out to more like 8% after that. So you really have to earn your way as a business page in an organic post. Meanwhile, the average engagement rate in 2020 for an organic post was only 0.25%. So it's really tough to get a ton of eyeballs with an organic post. Now, granted, if you want to continue to go with the follow us campaigns, you see a lot of businesses do that. They put that on their websites or in advertising campaigns to follow us or like us on Facebook. That's still good because you're getting free traffic that way. I'm just trying to restructure the thinking here and see how Facebook has changed their algorithms. They've monetized this. They realize they have the best targeting platform in the world. So now they're going to make money off of it. If you want to get seen by big numbers, you're going to have to put some money behind your ads. This source of this information here is from a great blog that I would highly recommend, How the Facebook Algorithm Works in 2021, and how to make it work for you. That's from Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a really great resource for all things marketing. Organic versus paid reach. So what you can see here is a chart. This is from one of my clients that I've worked with, totally different industry than travel. But basically what you can see here is over time, the light orange was their organic posts in their reach. And even on their best day, it looks like they had maybe 4,000 people reached with one post. And all these dark orange spikes here is from their paid posts. As you can see, the reach is much, much greater with a paid post. And this particular client doesn't have a huge budget. We're probably talking about a $200 to $300 ad spend on something that's getting you around 10,000 views here. Boosted posts versus ads. I'm sure some of you are boosting posts, which is a great way to start, kind of get your feet wet to Facebook Ads Manager. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's a few differences between a boosted post versus an ad. Where we use boosted posts at the Nonantum is basically if we make an organic post and it's getting really good engagement, I'll put a little bit of money behind it just to kind of feed that fire a little bit to get more eyeballs on it because I know it's doing well. However, if you're doing Facebook ads, you can do a lot more targeting. Your placement selection is different. So if you do a boosted post, it's going to serve wherever Facebook decides. It could be in the stories, it could be in articles, could be on the right column of your news feed. Facebook gets to decide. But if you do a proper ad in Ads Manager, you can tell Facebook, I only want this ad to show up in the news feed, or I only want it in the stories. Ad objectives, basically, what's your goal behind the ad? Do you want to drive people to a landing page? Are you looking for a video view? There's just a lot more granularity when you get into doing a proper ad versus a boosted post. However, I'm not going to say boosted posts are useless. It's just, it's a first step, not the end game. All right, Facebook Ads Manager. My hope is that most of the people here today do have a Facebook Ads Manager account. If you do not, please reach out to Laura or one of us here. We can certainly help you get started in this direction. This is the tool or program that you use on Facebook. And you can just search in the little search bar at the top of Facebook for Ads Manager, and you'll see this come up. So this is a big key to trusting the algorithms. That's my best advice for everybody here today, is trust Facebook. They have thousands and thousands, if not more, data points on every single one of us about what we like, what we interact with, and what's important, what kind of content we want to see. And even furthermore than that, choosing this objective is going to give you the best reach for your campaigns and your goals, and also give you the most effective ad spend. So this is probably the most crucial part of setting up an ad, is this screen right here. So for example, if I have a big event going on, it's the 4th of July lobster bake at the Nonantum Resort, shameless plug. Traffic would be something that I would probably click here in the middle as my objective. I want to get people to click through to a landing page. So that is the objective I would pick there. You can kind of think of this like a marketing funnel. So awareness, a brand awareness, and a reach campaign. A reach is just going to send it to the most amount of people possible, whereas you move up the funnel, or down the funnel, I should say, to traffic. It's going to cost you a little bit more money for that traffic, but it's going to be more targeted. And then all the way to the right, you see conversion as the column heading there. Those are going to charge you based on conversions, whether that's a form fill out or a lead, a call, something like that. So this is really the stepping up in price points here. cost per click. Everything we're talking about here, when you start running ads, is all about getting your best cost per click. Yes, you want to target the right people, but you want to do it effectively and efficiently. So as you can see here, the picture on the left shows that cost per clicks can be very different from one industry to the next. And over to the right, you can see cost per clicks by year. It changes. So it's supply and demand. It's the same way with Google ads. It's the same way on Facebook and Instagram. If we're having a tough time in the economy and people aren't spending a lot of money on their ads, Facebook's going to dial back their costs, so people will want to invest more with them. So how do we combat with this? You have to measure and adjust. Here's a picture of the screen that you'll see. This is just a generic picture I got offline. And basically it shows all the ad campaigns that somebody is running. And it gives you all kinds of metrics in Facebook Ads Manager to see the performance of each one of your campaigns. So what I'll typically do is, again, if we're running an ad for the 4th of July lobster bake, just to keep it easy, I will launch an ad, let's say it's 2 weeks out before the event. And about 2 or 3 days after I've gone live with that ad, I'm going to come in here to Facebook Ads Manager and check to see how it's performing. Now, I mentioned to you guys before, frequency was a really important metric. If you guys can see my cursor here, here's the column of frequency. So this ad right here has a frequency of 2.08. That just means on average of all the people that are getting served your ad in the life of your ad, they'll see it about 2 times on average. So the pro tip here is the perfect line to dance is a frequency number of around 5. You want people to see it 5 times. So that keeps you front of mind. But if your frequency number gets too high, you're going to pay a lot more money for those ads. So that's what you don't want to have happen. They don't want you to be spammy. All right, Facebook Business Manager. This is basically an add-on or an extra to your Facebook Ads Manager account. It's just a stepped up level, very easy to set up. Took me about 20 minutes to do it, and it really wasn't that hard. It was just following the steps. And why I did this is this adds another layer of targeting that you can do. So for you businesses out there that have a big email list, this is definitely for you. And it will allow you to upload your CSV files to directly target your customers only. So if you are the chamber who has a ton of members, you can serve an ad just to my members based on the email list. It's super effective and very targeted ad spend. All right, let's make some ads here. I'm going to jump into Facebook Ads Manager. So bear with me while I stop sharing this and jump over there. Okay. Okay. Everybody can see my screen, right, Laura? If you nod, yes, perfect. Thank you. All right, so you can get to Ads Manager by searching right here. Search for Facebook. What I have it set up here. Once you're all signed on to Ads Manager, it'll be on your left menu. So I'm going to click right in here. And I'm actually going to go and look at some of our ads from the past. And I'm just going to pick a random one that we did. Let's see. Let's do this one. Okay, so everybody can see this here. Basically, this is the stats that will go along with this campaign that I ran. Southern Maine Dining, 3 picks, landing page views. You can see I'm naming my campaigns based on the targeting parameters and the objectives I have of this ad. So in here, you get all kinds of cool things like the results. I was trying to get landing page views. That was my goal, landing page views. As you can see, my reach, 19,924 people saw it. And that was off of 45,000 impressions for a cost per result of 25 cents. So if you guys do any kind of media buying or ad buying, you'll know that it costs usually a lot more than 25 cents to get somebody back to your website. If you run a TV ad, if you run print ads, whatever it may be, to get somebody to your website for 25 cents, Facebook really has a competitive edge on their costs, and they have the best targeting platform in the world, which is why we use it so much as marketers. You see the schedule here, how long it ran, 14 days. Frequency was 2.26. That could have been a little higher. I'd like to see that a little bit higher, but my point here that I want to show you guys is that you have to come in here and see how your ad is performing. If it's not performing well, you can change out your copy, you can change out your picture, your video, whatever it may be, but it's super crucial that you're coming in to monitor how the campaign is performing. So now I'm going to jump in and actually start creating. Let's see, I like to have Laura up here so I can see her if something's going wrong. All right, create. Now, let me jump back. Campaigns, create. Okay, so this is what it looks like now if you're creating a campaign. Create new campaign, buying type auction. I don't play with that too much. It's always an auction, but here's those 3 columns that we talked about before. So here's another little pro tip. If you are promoting, let's say, an event, a big sales event you've got going on, if it's an auto dealer, they do, you know, President's Day sale, or if it's a, you know, the chamber, they have after hours. What I'd like to do is something called warming up your audience. So I will run a reach campaign first. So we'll start there. And let's say it's a month out before the after hours, Laura. Run a reach campaign for about 2 weeks. And basically that's saying I want to get my ad in front of as many people as possible within my targeting parameters. So now people have seen your ad. They're aware that there's an after hours going on. Ooh, they've got great food. It's at an awesome venue. Maybe I'd be interested in that. So this is the awareness phase. You're just trying to let them know that it's there. This is going to be your cheapest cost per clicks, and you'll reach the most people. After that 2 weeks is over and that campaign runs out, then I'll probably run a traffic or an engagement, or if it's a video views campaign, with the intent of getting them to my landing page to sign up, to reserve a spot, whatever that may be. So a 2-week reach campaign followed up by a 2-week traffic campaign or engagement campaign is a typical approach that I will take. All right, so here we're setting up a new campaign. You can name it whatever you'd like. I'm just going to call this Chamber After Hours. All right, special ad categories, don't worry about that too much. That comes into play if it's for employment or housing, things where there are laws associated. So if that's one of your industries, and that's something you may have to consider. For example, if I run a Facebook ad because we're trying to hire cooks at the Nonantum, my targeting options are much different because you cannot discriminate based on age or sex or anything like that. So that's why that's there. Campaign objective, we just define that it's a reach campaign. A/B tests, you can do that. It's a good thing to do, but I typically do it with multiple ads instead of just creating a whole other campaign. Within my ad set, I'll create 2 different ads, different pictures, and see which one performs the best and then optimize for that. So I usually don't play with this too much. Campaign budget optimization. So you can choose here between a daily budget and a lifetime budget. Let's just keep it right. I usually do lifetime budget just so I know what I'm working with here. $500. I will give you guys a rule of thumb here, and this is a good thing to write down if you're taking notes. On average, you could expect somewhere between a $6 to a $10 cost per 1,000 with most ad campaigns. Now, if you do a conversion campaign where you want leads and you're using video, so it's really rich media, they're going to charge you more to serve that. So that cost per 1,000 is going to go up a little bit. But on average, with a traffic or a reach campaign, you're looking at probably $6 to $10 per 1,000 views. All right, so next, well, let's do this. Show more options. Ad scheduling, this is kind of a cool thing. You can run ads on a schedule, and what that will do is it'll let you pick certain days and hours that you want to run the ads. If you don't want to run ads at 2 a.m. in the morning because you think that's wasteful ad spend, then you can change that and just run it during the peak times. New ad set. chamber after hours. Going to the Nonantum Resort, that's all jacked up, but you know where that would typically be. That would be your business page. You can set your scheduling here, budget and schedule, run it for, this shows a month. I typically do 2-week campaigns. It depends on the goal of the marketing campaign. Here's where you get to set up those days of when people will see it. This is the user's time zone. So you can pick days, times, whatever you like. Location. You edit here, you get the United States, it pops up. You can drop that and zoom in and set it exactly where you want it. You can do it this way, or you can actually type in certain states if it's that big. Typically, I'm doing a smaller thing, so I'm grabbing this and dropping it pinned somewhere. So just around our local area. And you can add, I believe it's up to 10 different locations to target like this, 10 different pins you can drop. Your age, you can edit this, whatever you feel like is best for your campaign objectives. Genders, you can edit this. Demographics, this is where it gets really interesting. So depending on your goals, your advertising goals, this is something that you should be playing with, but there's something really important to notice here is if you layer in interests or behaviors. For example, I used to do a lot with people who are recently shopping for engagement rings because we're a wedding venue. So I want people who are shopping for wedding rings to see this ad about come have a wedding at the Nonantum. There's so much in here under these interests that you can look at. Financial, you can say, I only want the top 5% wealthiest people in this targeting radius to see my ad. There's a lot in here that you can play with that fits your business needs, and they change fairly often. That's one thing you will see with this dashboard is there's little tweaks. It still looks the same, but there's little tweaks. So definitely recommend getting in here to the demographics and interests and target here. However, the caveat here is that your audience will become more specific and less broad, so you'll serve to less people. If you select, I only want the top 10% of household incomes within your radius, those are the only people that will see that. So you exclude people just by layering in interests. So that's really important to know. You could also exclude. Maybe there's a certain area that you don't want to see your ads, or a certain demographic, whatever that may be. It all helps you have a more efficient ad spend. Moving on to placements here. Placements is automatic, is recommended. That's what Facebook is gonna, they're gonna put your ad wherever they so choose. And that's not typically what I like to do. I'll go to manual placements and I will knock off the audience network, and I'll typically just run with Facebook and Instagram and just in the feed. So I'd get rid of stories. You could keep it, it depends on what you wanna do. Get rid of in-stream articles, on search articles. All I want it is in the feeds. So this is really important. You're picking the best place to show your ads.
Rob, can I ask a quick question?
Please.
Because Anush had asked this question too. It's to do with Facebook and Instagram and, kind of building out the right ads, I guess, for both. I know sometimes we've put some stuff up there and it, it'll show you the preview and it's just not working for Instagram. How do you make those decisions and how do you coordinate your ads across both of those platforms? It's
tricky, to be honest with you, Laura. So obviously there are certain limitations between Instagram that are different to Facebook. Most of them are similar. For example, you can't put a link right into an Instagram post that someone can click on. So it looks silly if you do it on a Facebook ad and then it shows up on Instagram. It really is just looking at the previews and the next step that we'll get to here and seeing how it appears on mobile, on desktop, Instagram, and on Facebook. So I just play with those previews, and if something's not right, I'll edit and tweak on the fly.
And are there certain campaigns that just work better on Instagram as opposed to Facebook, things like that?
Yeah, so if we're just talking about posting or ads, either which way, something that I like to say, and I'm not sure where I got this or I'd cite my source, but think of Instagram as inspiration, whereas Facebook is for information. If you think of it that way and you think about the posts that you've done in the past, if you post a beautiful picture with a sunset and some food that looks very well prepared, that's going to get a lot of engagement on Instagram. Pretty pictures, for us, lobsters and lighthouses is key. So those types of things will get a lot of engagement. And that's what I use Instagram for. But if it's informational and I'm posting about an event or something going on at the resort, then I typically try to steer that towards Facebook. All right. Moving on here, optimization and delivery. This is the last big part, I would say, before we start designing an ad. So in this case, I believe it's not going to give me a ton of options, right? So we're running a reach campaign. So whatever objective you pick is going to let you optimize differently. And what this is saying is, hey, Facebook, I want you to optimize my ad and serve it to certain people. So if you do a reach campaign, you don't have as many options. But if I would have picked traffic for a campaign, you would see that you could optimize for landing page views or link clicks or reach. So whatever it is that you really want to have happen, this is super important. So what will happen is if I did a traffic ad and I optimized for link clicks, Facebook knows who is likely to click on a link, or who is likely to click on a see more call to action button, or who is likely to watch a video, because they've tracked your past movements and interests, so they know who's going to do what. So if you trust the Facebook algorithms to serve it to the people who will watch the videos or who will click on a link to go to a landing page, that's really important in having an effective campaign right here. All right, so I'll leave it there. I'll hit next. In here you have your ad name, where you can link to your Instagram account, so you're posting to both Facebook and Instagram. Ad setup. In the ad setup, the only couple things that I would think about is think about the message that you're trying to convey. If you are, it's easy for me to talk about the Nonantum. If you're a resort and this is a generic come stay at the Nonantum, I'm probably going to do a carousel ad. Those are the ones that have the little cards that you can swipe to the side. And this probably won't show it because I don't have anything on there, but a carousel ad lets you display a bunch of pictures, 4 or 5 pictures at once. Whereas if you just have a restaurant picture, maybe one single image might be the better bet. So think about what is going to convey your message the best. Do you need multiple pictures, or can you get away with one? Would video be the right medium for this? Another pro tip here on the ads of actually creating the ad is that when we do video, I will see on average 3 to 4 times more engagement on a video. Video is the wave of the future. Just like that video that we watched on the YouTube video, it said that Facebook is tipping their algorithms more towards that type of content. It's just better content, so Facebook wants to serve it more. Unfortunately, it's very expensive and time consuming to get. Down below here, headlines, super important. That's what's gonna show over the top of your ad. I haven't selected any images or anything, but that's okay. We're just going through the best practice steps here. Headline is what's gonna display over the top of your image, the description below that, and your website URL. Pretty straightforward here. We already did placements, so I wouldn't worry about that. Call to action button. I almost always do a call to action button. Now, there's a whole science behind call to action buttons. However, for Facebook, your options are limited. So what I try to do, unless one of these really makes sense for what I'm trying to get the user to do, I go with the least committal sounding call to action button possible. So see more, watch more. I never want to say, even with a hotel ad, I very rarely will say book now, because to me that sounds committal. I just want them to see more pictures, get more information, and sometimes they'll click more on that. All right, and then from there you would hit publish, and that's about it. I'm sure that we'll have some questions after this specific to your business, but really those are the steps and kind of the tweaks that I go through each time. So the other thing that I would add in this section before we jump out of here and look at some data is, if you do get a Facebook Business Manager account, like we talked about before, that next level of account, what it will allow you to do is install or upload the CSV emails. So that's definitely a really important part. So that's about it on the making of the ad section. We got about 20 minutes left. So if we have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I would love to take a look at that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And let's see what we've got here.
I think we're waiting for some questions, but I have a question for you, mostly to do with budget, Rob. I mean, we've heard people talk about everything from spending $5 to spending $500. You know, are there any specific, I know you mentioned the $6 to $10 per thousand, but if I'm a business and I've got a really limited budget and what I can spend, can I still do an effective campaign with that small budget?
Absolutely. Now, it depends on what your goal is always going to be my first warning. Is it depends. So if you want to spend $25 on an ad, you could guess you're probably going to get about 2,500 people to interact with that. So that's a $10 cost per thousand. So 2,500 people going to your landing page is really great. Now, not all of those people will go to your landing page, but they'll interact with your ad. It'll make an impression with them, and it's a touch point basically for your brand. So really, you don't have to have these big $100, $200, $500 budgets for an ad just to get a little boost, and especially effective if it's a local kind of event or promotion. You have a very small targeting radius, so you can hit a lot of people with a small amount of money. Does that make sense, Laura? Perfect.
Absolutely. And you have another question in the chat. Robin wants to know if you can explain reach versus impression.
Absolutely. So this is really key. So reach is defined as how many unique individuals see your ad. So if 1,000 people see my ad at least once, that counts as a reach. Whereas one person could see my ad 5 times. Now the total sum of all the times your ad was served to somebody, that's impression. So hopefully that makes some sense there.
Now, Rob, you mentioned the Hootsuite in the beginning. Are there other places? I mean, I know algorithms for Facebook are changing all the time. Are there other sources for people to follow? How do people keep up with that? And is it important to keep up with that?
Yes, Facebook is changing all the time. Even from a user standpoint, things look different all the time. Hootsuite is a great one. HubSpot is another good one. If you just get on Google and start looking for Facebook algorithms or how to do Facebook ads, there's all kinds of great guides out there that will step-by-step walk you through, like we just did, with a little more detail even. So that's definitely a good resource. And then also Facebook has its own training portal, if you will, Facebook Blueprint. So I have my social media people usually take a few of those training courses, and there's some that are 5 minutes and there's some that are an hour long, and it all depends on what it is you're trying to learn how to do. Facebook has so many more capabilities than most of us take advantage of. So if you get into the Facebook Blueprint courses, you're really getting the best kind of instruction you can right from the source.
We've got a couple more questions here. Anush was asking, is there a way to target people who are already part of a specific Facebook group, but a group that's run or administered by someone else or another business?
Ooh, good question. Could you read that again one more time, Laura? I'm trying to read that.
Sure. She's asking if there's a way to target people with an ad who are already part of a specific Facebook group, but it's not a group that you yourself are running. It's another business or another organization.
Sure.
Anush,
So
you're trying to get to 3 towns. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so targeting a group, that's a great question. I would be completely honest with you and say I've never tried to do that before. So I know that you can do that kind of thing with YouTube. Like you can target based on a channel. If somebody wants a certain channel or videos, you can target that way. But a group on Facebook, I've never tried that. It's a great question. I'll have to look into that and see if we can get you an answer.
Great. Robin was asking back on the frequency. So when you said optimal frequency is 5, is that impressions, and what time period are you looking at? For example, 5 and 2 weeks?
Yes. So overall length of the campaign, you want it to be close to 5. If you have too big of a budget for your small sample size of people, then they'll end up seeing your ad too many times, and you'll see that frequency number go above 5, which will make your cost per click shoot straight up, and you don't want that. So really just gauging the whole campaign life like I said, after I launch an ad, I'll go back in there 2 or 3 days later and take a look at how it's performing. And if it's down at 1 or 2 on a frequency, maybe I'll bump that budget up a little bit because I know I can do that.
Okay, and a question from Dean. What is the number of ideal target audience in a campaign to make it effective?
The number of ideal target audience in a campaign to make it effective. I guess the honest answer there is it depends. So it depends on how many people you want at this event, this promotion, whatever it is that you're trying to do to get people to this landing page. It basically, after a while, comes down to a math problem. I know that it's going to take me $50 to get 5,000 impressions, which means I'll probably get 1,000 clicks to my landing page, and of those 1,000 people, 50 of them will show up at the event. So after you run a few of these and you kind of get what your conversion rates are, it becomes a math problem. So it all depends, definitely. If you have a massive event that you need to get 500 people at, you're probably gonna have to spend a little bit more budget.
A question for you, Rob, from Chris. Do you have any tips on getting into the business and just starting out? What would be the best way to generate traffic to yourself to gain clients and get experience?
Sure. Well, I guess it depends on what business that you're in, the industry that you're in, because that's going to change greatly. But I would say starting out with the boosted posts is a good way to get your feet wet and just kind of understand how that targeting works and about how much budget you're going to have to allocate for each type of event. That's a great way to get started. Getting people to interact with your business and having your own employees share and like and comment your things will start getting you some reach. But the first step for any ads campaigns for me is always a reach campaign. Just get my message in front of as many people as possible and go from there.
A question from Fiona. If you have a small email list, say 2,000, for example, but a national audience, is it really worth uploading that list to Ads Manager?
I guess it depends. So you're going to get really cheap campaigns if it's your own email list. Your cost per click will be super low, so it's very effective. A 2,000 person email list, you could run a $50 ad and hit everybody probably 3 or 4 times. So that's a pretty cost-effective way to do it. So I would say yes. And if you continue to add to your email list, that's definitely worth it. And a little tip here of kind of the future trends in digital marketing. There's this whole issue around security, and you guys will certainly see this coming up where, if you visit a website now and it'll tell you that there are cookies on this website, do you accept, yes or no? That was kind of the start of this whole privacy thing, but it's ramping up big time. And right now, Apple is at ends with Facebook because they're making it optional if you want a brand to be able to interact with you and track your data. So if you go to a website now, they're going to let you know, hey, this place is tracking your cookies. Do you accept it, yes or no? And in some cases, they just plain old won't let you do it. Google is taking away third-party cookies. So basically what that means is, as a wedding venue, I want to do a campaign for people looking to find a wedding venue, and they have shown an interest or past behavior of shopping for engagement rings. Some of that is going to go away, or just won't have as much of that available because of these security measures that are going intact. So why I say that is the future, and a really important step from here on out, is to get as much information from your own website and your email list, your guests, as possible.
So we have a comment, Rob. Actually, we have a bunch of people watching on Facebook as well. And your pal, Dave Rawson from Lobster Claw, said that he recently targeted a group with an ad specifically looking for the veterinary industry. And he got specific and specifically targeted Facebook specific groups that veterinarians hang out on. So I guess he was really successful with that. I know that's one of his great interests, that he works with that particular group. So nice to see that it works, right?
Thank you very much, Dave and Howie. I look forward to talking to you again soon. I hope you've been well.
So I think that ends our questions, unless anyone else has any. So any final words for us, Rob? Now we're all going to, of course, go right to Ad Manager and try to figure this out. So any questions, any final thoughts? If someone's going to create their first ad today, you know, do you do a low budget, go back and check, you know, how do you make a decision if you go back and check that it's maybe not working? How do you fix it
Yes.
from there?
Okay, so final thoughts, I would say trust the algorithms. That's the biggest part of it. Whatever your goal is, trust Facebook to deliver what you're looking for. So start small. If you have never done any of this, start with the boosting post to kind of dip your toes in the water and understand how that works and your targeting capabilities. That is a good way to first start. But then start with a reach campaign. Just get it out in front of as many people as possible and go back and check 2 days later in your ads manager and see how it's performing. That's the best way I can say to get off on the right foot.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. This has been hugely educational. I myself took a lot of notes. I feel a lot better prepared, and you've already trained me on this, so that's awesome. Well, thank you all so much. We've got a lot of thank yous to you in the comments, and we'll add that. This is going to be available on our YouTube channel soon, and we'll post it on Facebook so that you can share it with others, or if you didn't get enough information, we can you can watch it again and again. And Rob, I'm sure you'd be willing to share that deck with us so we can send it out to some of the participants. So if you want more
Absolutely.
information, drop us a note at the chamber and we'll get it to you. And thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you very much, Laura. Have a great day, everybody.